Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam yena bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamakyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttaparagamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Lalita Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitangscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin iti namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhya evacha Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. He Krishna Karana Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Today is Saturday, March 13th, 2021, according to our Western calendar. And that means we're already almost in the middle of March. And it means we're approaching Gaur Purnima. I just read a message that they're expecting 4,000 devotees for the Gaur Purnima festival in Mayapur. I don't know how many are usually there, but I was quite surprised to hear. So we might want to imagine, if we're not going to Mayapur, we might want to make a mental pilgrimage, manasa parikrama. Of course, there are also lots of online parikramas happening nowadays you can connect to. Or you can stay right in your own room, house, apartment, and make a parikrama of your apartment. Yeah, there was a famous essay. Who wrote it? A British author, famous, 19th century. He was protesting against all of the travel literature being written. So he wrote an essay about a journey around his room. Okay, let's journey to the Bhajana Lalasa of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura. This is song number 8. And it goes like this in translation. O Lord Hari, because I forgot you, my tongue has become afflicted with the disease of ignorance. I cannot relish the nectar of your holy name, for I have become addicted to the taste of worldly pleasures. O Lord Hari, if I sing your holy name aloud every day with great respect, then, as sugar candy taken medicinally destroys the very disease which makes it taste bitter, namely jaundice, so your holy name will cure my spiritual disease and allow me to gradually taste his sweetness. O merciful Lord, how great is my misfortune that I feel no appreciation for your holy name. In such a lamentable state, how will I be freed from committing the 10 offenses to the holy name? If I sing your holy name every day, by your mercy, the 10 offenses will gradually disappear. A taste for your holy name will grow within me, and then I will taste the intoxicating spirit of the name. So you may have noticed, again, this is a reflection, a Bengali song, lyrical rendering of a verse of Srila Rupa Goswami's Nectar of Instruction, verse number 7. Let's sing, and then we can discuss that. Hari 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 Tomare Bhuliya avidyā-pīd aya-sukhate rasanā mora Tomare Bhuliyā avidyā-pīd rasanā mora Krishna Kshetra Swami bhālo nāhi lāge aya-sukhate bhora Krishna āma-sudhā bhālo nāhi lāge aya-sukhate bhora, prati-dina jadi ādara koriyā, kīrtana kori, prati-dina jadi ādara koriyā, shantir kīrtana kori, sitapala jena nāhi roga-mūla, grame sadhu-bhavan, sitapala jena nāhi roga-mūla, grame sadhu-bhavan, durdaiva amara sename ādara, nāhi doya maya, durdaiva amara sename ādara, nāhi doya maya, dasa aparadha amara durdaiva, kemane hoive shoya, dasa aparadha amara durdaiva, kemane hoive koriyā, anudina jena tava nama gaya, kramete kripaya tava, anudina jena tava nama gaya, kramete kripaya tava, aparadha jabe name ruchi habe, asadibo nama-sudhā, aparadha jabe name ruchi habe, asadibo nama-sudhā. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Bora Hari Bol Nitai Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Bora Hari Bol. Hey, Hari Hare, Tomare, Bhuliya, avidyā-pīd, pīdata, rasanā, mora. O Lord Hari, because I forgot you, Bhuliya means having forgotten, my tongue has become afflicted. Here, tongue is rasanā, mora, rasanā, my tongue. Is pīdita, has become afflicted. Avidyā-pīd, because of the affliction of ignorance. I cannot relish the nectar of your holy name, for I have become addicted to the taste of worldly pleasures. Krishna añāma-sudhā. Sudhā means nectar. It means intoxicating drink, actually. Bhālo nāhi lāge. I cannot take it well. Bhālo is good or well. Nāhi lāge. I can't access it. Aya-sukhate bhora. The sukha, the pleasure of visha has become my addiction, bhora. Prati-dina jadi ādara koriyā, shenam kīrtana kori. O Lord, if I sing your holy name aloud every day with great respect, prati-dina is every day, and jadi is if, from yadi. Ādara koriyā. If I sing aloud, say nam kirtan kori. If I do this nam kirtan, sitapal jeno. Then as sugar candy, sitapal, taken medicinally, nāhi, destruction, roga-mūla will destroy the disease, roga, at the root, mūla. Krame sadhu hoy hari. So your holy name will cure my spiritual disease at the root, and gradually, krame, my taste, sadhu, hoy, happens. In other words, the normal sweet taste will happen. Dur-daiva amara. How great is my misfortune. She-nam ādara. I feel no appreciation. She-nam, for this name. Na-hoilo. It doesn't happen, has not happened. Doya-moy. Oh, you who are merciful, you who are constituted of mercy, merciful Lord. Dasha aparada, amar durdaiva, my misfortune, a lamentable state. How will I be freed from committing the 10 offenses? Dasha aparada, kamone hoibe kshoy. Kshoy in this case, freed, means I think also cut. Kamone, how. Hoibe, will be. How will be the kshoya, the destruction of the 10 offenses. Anudin jeno, if I sing your holy name every day, tavanam gai, by your mercy, tava kripai, kramete, will gradually disappear. Aparada, jabe, aparajabe name ruchi hobe, which is hoibe. The taste, ruchi, of your name, hoibe, will happen. Aparada jaibe, it will go. The aparads will go away. Ashadibo nama-sudhā. Ashadiva, I will taste. Nama-sudhā, the nectar, the intoxicating spirit of your holy name. So it ends with, it begins with lamentation, the song, and it ends with hope, as many of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura's songs do. And we may recognize that he is taking this song from Upadeshamrita, verse number 7. Syat Krishna Charitamrita avidyā-pīd rasanasya narochikanu kintvādarāda nuninang kalusaiva jushta svadvi kramad bhavatitat gadamula hantri. The holy name, character, pastimes, and activities of Krishna are all transcendentally sweet like sugar candy. Although the tongue of one afflicted by the jaundice of avidyā, ignorance, cannot taste anything sweet. It is wonderful that simply by carefully chanting these sweet names every day, a natural relish awakens within the tongue, and one's disease is gradually destroyed at the root. So the verse is very much rooted in an analogy. You may have noticed that a lot of the teachings of Krishna consciousness are connected with analogies. I'm seeing this in the Tattva Sandarbha, which we're attending. I'm attending a course in philosophical points of nyaya and epistemology, especially. A lot of examples are taken, analogies and examples to illustrate, because we have difficulty with abstractions. They don't go in because we experience with our senses, including the mind. And so to reach beyond the senses and mind, we need some help, some analogies. So here we're getting the analogy of the experience of jaundice. Some of you may have experienced jaundice. I don't believe I've had jaundice specifically. Anyone has experienced jaundice? Ananda-mayi has had jaundice. And do you want to tell us what it's like to experience jaundice?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, and everyone. I'm a little sick, so I'm sorry my voice is not so good maybe. I didn't lost the taste. So it wasn't so much like the description. I was in Vrindavan at that time. I was on the course of Bhaktivinoda. And I was eating too much sweets. Then usually I was very strict with all these things, but this year was quite free. I spent 2 weeks. They took me to one person who is curing this disease, and they told me that one devotee from Russia just died for this jaundice.
Wow.
So they took me to the hospital, and I was quite sick, really. I was thinking, oh, Krishna is taking me away. A second chance came. So I got this second chance.
You got a second chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I passed my exams then. So the devotees were really surprised.
Oh, very good. As I understand, it's a condition of the liver.
Yeah, there's some connection with the liver, and it some liquid is there, yellow liquid, which contaminates all the body. So it's very difficult to cure. It goes for many months to cure it.
Oh.
Yeah, quite
so that
heavy.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyway,
so the analogy is given. I'm curious about this also. The tradition says that the cure for jaundice is to take sugar candy or rock candy, which to me sounds completely impractical.
in the hospital, they gave me lots of this, how they, I don't know how to say in English. They give kroplówka, I don't know. They put the veil in the
IV.
yeah, and this is like sugar. This substance, it's like sugar. So my head was like this, you know, because it was too much of this. But they cured me with this sugar. It's actually,
Oh, so okay.
yeah, and some medicines also.
So it must be true that it's cured with sugar, although I thought you said you ate too much sugar and then that's how you got sick.
Maybe not too much, but I just went to the shops, you know, in the Vrindavan. They opened new shops near the temple. So I was tasting the sweets, and maybe from I don't know exactly, but that was my. I was thinking that this is my bad karma. That I just got free for this.
Okay. Well, I'm just looking I'm just looking at the Wikipedia article on jaundice. Not very much fun. Okay. Back to Shastra. So the point that's made in the Shastra in this verse is Kintu, the second half of the verse, ādarat, anudinam, that if one chants the name every day, and how to chant, the Sanskrit word ādarat means carefully. And so kintvadarat anudinam kalusa eva jushta svadvi kramat bhavati tatkadamula hantri. There can be removal. It becomes, this chanting becomes tatgadamula hantri. It becomes that which removes at the root this disease. So we already know this, but maybe we don't. Maybe we forget. There is a disease condition, and the diseased condition is not relishing the name. So if you're noticing if you're noticing a lack of taste in chanting the holy name, perhaps we should think, oh, this is a problem. I'm in a diseased condition. We want to be in a healthy condition, which suggests that relishing the holy name is the natural condition. It's the natural healthy condition. So how to get there? Kintvadarat anudinam. Anudinam, every day. Chanting. This is what we do. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada says in his purport, the real disease is in the heart. If the mind is cleansed, however, if consciousness is cleansed, a person cannot be harmed by the material disease. So that's nice to know. One is protected by purification, by the chanting. To cleanse the mind and heart from all misconceptions, one should take to this chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. it's interesting to think that misconceptions can be corrected by this process, which doesn't seem to have anything to do with conceptual formation of conception. Conceptions are something in the mind. It's a construction, we can say, of the mind, maybe the intelligence. And a misconception would be a misunderstanding. And Prabhupada's saying you can fix all the misconceptions just by chanting Hare Krishna. Okay, so Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Oh, we have some comments here. Rasodari Hari says, interesting, could be in Jyotish, bad liver is connected with Jupiter, and the remedy is also Jupiter, which is sweet. Okay. And the analogy is very good since Jupiter is connected to spiritual progress. Okay, thank you. That's good to know. Yeah, they're shooting rockets, to Mars. I think there are 3 of them from 3 different countries now going to Mars. One's already there, maybe all there. I guess they're all there now. They should be, if they want some benefit, maybe they should go to Jupiter. Then again, maybe not, because they'll just spoil everything. Okay, Avadutta Rai says, Lokanath Swami says we should avoid the 12th offense. Oh, chanting with mobile phones on, indeed. Yes. Yeah, perhaps as there's more kinds of technology, there will be more kinds of offense to be avoided. Okay, Hare Krishna. Does anyone have something to share this today? Any show and tell is welcome. Anything and everything, something. We didn't see any in advance registering, but you don't necessarily have to announce in advance. And you don't have to be shy. But it looks like, no, today everyone's being shy, or they're being something else. You are being too cautious. I don't know what it is. Maybe the show and tell idea has lost its popularity. Oh, Olia has her hand up. Olia, do you want to say something?
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Olia.
Hare Krishna. Darf ich kurz noch auf Deutsch sagen? Ganz kurz. Sie können dann vielleicht für alle übersetzen. Okay. Ich mache jetzt Guru-Schule-Kurs, Guru-Disciple-Kurs. Und das ist sehr schwer für mich. Sehr ehrlich schwer. Gesagt. Ja, das ist sehr schwer für mich zum Verstehen. Und ich bitte, also es geht, ja, ich habe schon Hälfte geschafft. Ja, also es ist schon Hälfte vorbei. Aber es nimmt meine ganze Kraft, also Japa und dieser Kurs, ja, also das nimmt ganze Kraft. Und ich bitte auf eure Segnungen von alle Gott, Bruder und Schwester, und von Ihnen bitte, dass ich das schaffe. Danke.
Okay. Danke. Yes, Bhaktivinoda is expressing that she's finding it that she's taking the disciple course, and she's finding it quite difficult. Perhaps I should add that she has 4 young children. So managing 4 children, chanting Hare Krishna 16 rounds. Yeah, and a couple of her children are very small. And she's doing the disciple course. So she's asking for the blessings of all the devotees present to be successful in completing this course, which she has now done half of so far. So your blessings are requested. Okay. Yes, I think they're all giving their blessings. Ich denke, die geben alle ihre Segnungen an dir, Bhuliya. Okay. So, if nobody wants, let's see, let me check again. Oh, they're all sending their blessings. So I think we could proceed with some discussion of Shastra. And we sort of dipped into Chaitanya Charitamrita very briefly last week as, preparation, as warming up for Gaur Purnima. And I thought we could continue, but, well, before we do that, I thought we'd do one verse of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami's Sri Mana Shiksha, splendid instructions to the mind. This has been very nicely compiled with commentaries by my god sister Urmila Devi. And it consists of 12 verses by Rupa Goswami, not Rupa, by Raghunath Das Goswami, and he addresses his mind. So these are prayers, mana, shiksha, prayers, but also shiksha, or more accurately, shiksha. They are instructions to the mind. So the first of these goes like this. First, the Sanskrit. Guru goshte goshtala yishu sujanebu suragane svamantre shri namni brajanava yuvadvanva sharane sadadambang hitva kururatim apurvam atitaram ayesvantar bratas chatubirabiyache dritapada. Dritapada. Oh, dear brother, oh mind, having given up all pride, please develop unprecedented and excessive attachment to, and then we get a list, to Sri Guru, to Sri Vrindavan, the abode of cows, that's Sri Vrindavan, to the devotee residents of Vrindavan, to all the devotees on this planet, to the confidential mantra given by Sri Guru, to the holy names of Sri Sri Radha Krishna, and to the process of surrendering to the fresh, youthful couple of Raja. Holding your feet, that is the feet of the mind, I beseech you with sweet words. Now, some of these words you probably maybe don't know. Unprecedented means it's never happened before. So please develop. Excessive means great, huge amount. Please develop attachment, which is super great and which has never been there before. Attachment to who? To Sri Guru, to Sri Vrindavan, to all the devotees of the planet, to the mantra. This is referring now to the mantras received in what we call second initiation, Gayatri mantras, to the holy name of Shri Shri Radha Krishna, to the process of surrendering to the fresh youthful couple of Raja. Holding your feet, I beseech you, I plead with you. Beseech is a strong request. So this first verse is just opening to the topic of developing the mind, which is being given throughout the Manashiksha. There's a commentary to this by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura, and he has an invocation to the Manashiksha commentary, which goes like this. Shri Shri Guru Charanebhyo Namaha, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Chandraya Namaha, Shri Raghunath Das Goswami Charanebhyo Namaha. I offer my respects to the lotus feet of Shri Guru, the moon-like Shri Krishna Chaitanya, and Shri Raghunath Das Goswami. And then there's several prayers. We can go through one of them. Vraja Dhamma Nitya Dhan Radha Krishna Duijana Lila Aveshe Ekka Tanu Hoya Dhamma-sudhā Goda Deshe Prakota Hoila Eshe Nitya Nitya Parishada Loya. The eternal treasure of Raja, Shri Shri Radha and Krishna, absorbed in their play, melded into one body and manifested in Bengal, along with their timeless abode and their entourage of eternal associates, melded together. Lila Avesha Eka Tanu Hoya. Tanu means body, Eka one, so they became one body. Radha Krishna Duijono Lila Aveshe. Avesha, this comes a few times in Chaitanya Charitamrita, can mean possession in the sense of like becoming possessed by a ghost. And so it's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, sometimes prema avesha is mentioned. Becoming possessed with prema. It's like being taken over by prema, by love. So here it mentions lila aveshe, becoming taken over by lila, becoming possessed, infused, completely pervaded with lila. Dhamma-sudhā Goda Deshe Prakota Hoila Eshe Nitya Nitya Parishada Loya. So he's telling how Mahaprabhu appears. And that brings us to our next topic. And for this, I want to ask Dharmagupta, if you're there, if I could share my screen, I would need some.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, you can share.
I'm not seeing the option.
Don't have share screen in the bottom of the window?
No, it has. Oh, there it is. It's right in front of me. Sorry. It was too obvious, so I didn't see it. Okay, now let's see if I can do this. Yeah. Okay, here we are. Now let me take this a little bit down. So, there's a very nice book I recommend to all of you. You can download this little book free of charge from the internet. It's a little book called Compact Chaitanya Charitamrita, or Compact CC, and it's by Sutapa Das, and you can find it by going to his website, and you can find his website by searching Sutapa Das blog. You'll get his blog, which is a very nice blog, and within that is, I think, books, and within books you'll see this book, and you can download it. And this is one page of that book, and this one page gives a summary of the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita. Yes, folks, the whole thing is here, and he's given some very nice summary, I think. You taking, first of all, some key words. So you'll see here, number one, invocation. And he's identifying this with the first 12 chapters of Adi Lila. Now, in one sense, he's expanding the idea of invocation, but I think it's appropriate. But let's read his little paragraph first. He says, Krishnadas prays for blessings, establishes Sri Chaitanya's divinity, describes his associates, and explains the reasons for his descent. He invokes respect and reverence before narrating the life story of Sri Chaitanya. So indeed, that is what happens in the first 12 chapters. And these first 12 chapters, sometimes devotees are a bit discouraged when attempting to read these chapters because they encounter quite a lot of theology. We often say philosophy. I would say, okay, Vaishnava philosophy, but it tends to be more on the theological side because it's all based on it's God-centered philosophy, if you like. And the first 14 verses of the first chapter are, you can say, the invocation proper, which is to say, they are, in a kind of formal sense, announcing. And after Krishnadas Kaviraj gives this invocation, a few verses later, verse number 22 of Adi Lila, he says, She Mangala Charanahoy Trividha Prakar Vastu Nirdesh Ashirvado Namaskar. Vastu Nirdesha Ashirvada Namaskar. The invocation involves three processes: defining the objective, offering benedictions, and offering obeisances. So that's like a definition of Mangala-charana. And this is what he's doing in the first 14 verses. But then for the next 12, the first and then the remaining 11 chapters, he's essentially elaborating on what he has spoken in those first 14 verses. And he's doing this in a very elaborate and very thorough and sometimes complex ways. And sometimes devotees get a little impatient with this because there's not a whole lot of what we may call action, narrative, story, although there is some story in especially chapter 7, describing what will be described again later in Madhya Lila, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's encounter with Prakashananda Saraswati Thakur. So I thought, let's go through this. Let's go through the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita in one quick whirlwind tour. The next two chapters, that's chapters 13 and 14, Sutapa describes as incarnation. Nimai is born. His miraculous childhood pastimes endear him to the inhabitants of Navadvip and further confirm his divine identity. Now this, we may wonder why this description is relatively short. And the reason is quite clear. That, I believe, is explained in chapter 8 of Adi Lila. Is it chapter 8? In any case, Krishnadas explains why and how he is writing the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and he is praising Vrindavandas Thakur for his Chaitanya Mangala, which becomes then known as Chaitanya Bhagavata. And he is saying there that he is not going to repeat what Vrindavandas Thakur has already written. He will simply refer to it briefly and then he will move on. He will summarize. And why is that? Because he wants to focus on what Vrindavandas Thakur did not include, namely the later pastimes. And so a short description of his appearance, his miraculous childhood pastimes, the fun that little Nimai has playing as a child, getting into mischief. But the details of that, much more detail is there given by Vrindavandas Thakur. Then we get two chapters describing Nimai's education, and we might want to say that here's where we start. Well, maybe it's too early to call him Nimai Pandit. Why is he called Nimai? It's said because he was born under a neem tree. And so he would, this was his nickname. Nimai receives some life lessons when his brother leaves home and his father passes away. Nevertheless, he begins his formal education and quickly gains fame for his scholarly prowess. We may recall that Navadvip is a center of learning in India at this time. It's famous for that. It's not just the Vaishnavas that say that. It's also known, or it was specifically known as a place where Nyaya was cultivated, was taught. And it's, as I understand, it's said to be the place where a new sort of Nyaya was developed called Nava-Nyaya or New Nyaya. And apparently Vasudeva Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya in the Chaitanya Charitamrita is just called Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Vasudeva Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was one of the active pundits in this movement of Navanyaya in Navadvip before he went to Puri. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a young lad picking up all these kinds of talent. Oops, I'm trying to move this. So move it here. He was quickly picking up all this knowledge, Nyaya, and also grammar. Now, grammar, you may think, what's the big deal about grammar? In Sanskrit learning, grammar can be a very big topic. It's like, it's understood if you can learn perfect Sanskrit grammar, you can become liberated. There's a whole philosophy called the philosophy of the grammarians in India, the Sanskrit grammarians. And their philosophy, they argue how Sanskrit is an ideal language. It's not an artificial language. It's primordial. And if you learn it perfectly, you can, it's like yoga. You can become liberated. I don't know where they describe you go, but maybe to grammar loka. I don't know. In any case, Sanskrit grammar can be quite complex, and there is a lot written about Sanskrit grammar. Most famously, there is Panini's Ashtadhyayi, which means 8 chapters of grammar. And based on that 8 chapters of Panini are so many commentaries. And there's also a grammar by Srila Jiva Goswami. Harinamamrita Vyakarana, which is also a quite substantial work of sutras, which is also based on the Panini's grammar, but it's transformed by Srila Jiva Goswami into Harinama-amrita Vyakaran. He changes everything to using examples from the names of the Lord, of Hari, of Vishnu, of Krishna. And by using names of Krishna and Vishnu and so on, he makes the grammar amrita instead of dry grammar. He says, I've written this grammar for the devotees, because they should not have to suffer the dry grammar of Panini. And there's a translation of, there's Lagu Harinamamrita Vyakaran, and there's a full-size Harinamamrita Vyakaran, and there's a medium size which has been translated by devotee or devotees and which is available, translated in English. Okay, we come to chapter 17, transformation. Nimai receives initiation into the chanting of Krishna's names, transforms into a devotional live wire, and begins to popularize congregational chanting as the prime means of spiritual elevation. He then accepts the order of sannyasa and becomes known as Sri Krishna Chaitanya. So this is all packed into Adi Lila chapter 17. The transformation of Nimai, who becomes known as Nimai Pandit, becomes now Sri Krishna Chaitanya. And this is where we were reading last week. After he had taken sannyas, he intends to go to Vrindavan Dham, and he ends up not very far from Navadvip. He ends up actually south of Navadvip in Shantipur with Advaitacharya. And there's an extensive description of Advaitacharya's hospitality at his home, hospitality, welcoming not only Mahaprabhu and his immediate companions, Nityananda Prabhu, and who else was with him? Mukunda, Chandrasekhar, in any case. But then the devotees came from Navadvip, several devotees, and Advaitacharya welcomed them all and housed them, it's mentioned. He housed them for several days while Mahaprabhu stayed. And when Mahaprabhu, and then of course, what happens, Sachimata comes and meets her son, and there is there are wonderful exchanges, bittersweet exchanges, we can say. And Sachimata is given permission, given blessings by the devotees. She wants to cook for her son while for all the days that he is present. Apparently there had been a bit of competition. Some others wanted to cook, but they agreed, okay, let her do all the cooking. So for some days. And then one day, Mahaprabhu decides, okay, after he has agreed that he's going to stay in Puri, so that his mother will always get news about him from the coming and going of devotees, Navadvip to Puri, Puri to Navadvip. He agrees to that happily, and then he says, okay, now I must go. But then Advaitacharya says, no, please stay 2 or 4 more days. 2 or 4, okay. So he says, all right, and he stays 2 or 4 more days. And they have, of course, lots of Hari Katha, Krishna Katha during all these days. And it said, what do they do in the evenings, in the night? They have kirtan. So I don't know if there was any sleeping going on. Okay, now we come to Madhya Lila. And Madhya Lila describes, first of all, renunciation in the first 6 chapters. Having adopted the renounced order, Sri Chaitanya begins his life as an itinerant preacher. After a final meeting in Shantipur, he bids farewell to his beloved family and friends and travels to Jagannath Puri. And the description of that travel to Jagannath Puri is somewhat detailed. I should say chapters 4 and 5 in particular describe the lingering, you can say, of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with Nityananda at 2 different temples. And one of the temples is the Kshetra Gopinath. And the title of this chapter is Sri Madhavendra Puri's Devotional Service, which indicates an important point is that, as Sutapa Prabhu mentions here, the theme is renunciation. Madhavendra Puri is the model of renunciation, of extreme renunciation. And the story of Madhavendra Puri is told rather in quite some detail, how he was sent by his Gopal deity at Govardhan to collect chandan from Puri, which is, more than 1,000 miles away. And so walking, he eventually comes into Orissa, and he must have gone through Bengal. He comes down from the north to Remuna, and in Remuna, he makes a stopover at the temple of Gopinath. And while he's in the temple of Gopinath, he hears about this wonderful kīr, this sweet milk, boiled down milk preparation that's made. And as he is sitting in the temple room chanting Hare Krishna, and the offering is being made, the last offering of the day, with, I think it's mentioned, 12 pots of kīr, Madhavendra Puri thinks it will be nice if, after the offering, I could taste some of this prasad. And by tasting this prasad, I will know, I can learn, or maybe he wants to ask the pujari how to make it, but it's not said. Just by tasting it, he will then know how to make this for his deity of Krishna. A thought which, you and I, at least I think, well, that's a quite reasonable thought to have. But Madhavendra Puri, after he had the thought, had another thought. And that other thought was, this was terrible. This was an aparada. To be thinking of tasting what Krishna is now tasting is a complete aparada. And he felt so bad about this that he left the temple and went into the market, the deserted marketplace, and just stayed there. So this whole story is told. We know the story, how Gopinath becomes Kshetra Gopinath. stealing. Daityesha, gee, I think you have unmuted yourself in a way which, oh, maybe it's not you, maybe it's someone else. Okay, we're okay again. Hearing. The point is that Madhavendra Puri is this model of renunciation, and he becomes recognized for his advanced Krishna consciousness. He's not simply renounced, but he's highly devoted to Lord Krishna, and that devotion is highlighted at the same time that the reality of the deity as being not simply a stone statue, but being the Lord himself is highlighted. And then in the next chapter is another story, which is highlighting again the reality of the deity, in this case, Shakshi Gopal, because Shakshi Gopal, that village, is on the way to Puri. So Mahaprabhu stops there also and hears that story about how Gopal becomes Shakshi Gopal to save the reputation of the unnamed older Brahmana who had made a promise, to a younger Brahmana, which now is being saved or is being affirmed by Gopal, by Shakshi Gopal, by moving a long distance from North to South India. So all of that is building up, we can say, to Mahaprabhu's appearance or his arrival in Puri. And Jagannath Puri is going to be the center of most of what happens in the remainder of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. But soon after Mahaprabhu arrives in Puri, it seems like he's going to break his promise to his mother, because he soon leaves Puri and goes south, and he's going to be traveling for some years. So we come to part number 6, propagation. First was renunciation, now propagation. Of course, renunciation continues. Chapters 7 through 15. Sri Chaitanya begins a tour of South India. He propagates Nama Sankirtan to everyone, regardless of religious, cultural, or social background. On his return, he displays incredible spiritual ecstasy at the Jagannath Puri Ratha Yatra festival. One way of looking at this section of Chaitanya Charitamrita is what can be called Mahaprabhu's Digvijay. Digvijay, his conquering of the directions. Traditionally, this would be something that is done by kings. The kings are going off and challenging their neighbors and sometimes fighting, and in this way becoming victorious. And ideally they want to be victorious in all directions. Dig means direction. So they conquer all the directions. Similarly, the devotees, they go out and they conquer in all directions by their preaching. This is a kind of pattern. We see this before Mahaprabhu. We see Shankaracharya was traveling and he was conquering the directions, and then he was establishing his mutts, his ashramas in the 4 corners of what's now called India. Madhvacharya was also traveling and conquering the directions by his preaching. So Mahaprabhu also was traveling and conquering the directions. And we can say he was also having some adventures. And we can say he was having some entertaining exchanges. I'm thinking in particular of his encounter with Venkatabhatta, the head priest of the Sri Rangam temple, his exchange, his friendly joking exchange with Venkatabhatta. That is described in one of these chapters, 8, 9, 10, I don't remember now. And some not so friendly exchanges. We encounter Chaitanya Mahaprabhu meeting some Buddhists who want to trick him, to embarrass him, to eat something untouchable. But the Lord is saved by a crow, a large bird that comes and picks up the so-called offering and drops it on the head of the head monk of this group of Buddhist monks. So adventures and meeting with so many sadhus, meeting also with Lord Shiva himself. And I should mention perhaps most important meeting that he has near the beginning of this section is with Sri Ramananda Rai. In chapter 8, he goes to south, he goes to what is called Rajamundri today, Raja Mahendri, I think. And he meets Ramananda Roy, has conversation with him for, what does it say, 3 or 4 days, summarized in the Ramananda Gauranga Samvada in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Although this was a private conversation, somehow or other it has entered into Chaitanya Charitamrita. How it has entered, I cannot say. I can guess that Mahaprabhu later reported it to Swarup Damodar, and then Swarup Damodar and maybe Raghunath Das reported it. Raghunath could have reported to Krishna Das Kaviraj. Then 16 through 18, aspiration is an interesting term. To aspire is to hope for something and to work toward it. After many failed attempts, Sri Chaitanya finally fulfills his long-cherished aspiration to visit the Holy Land of Vrindavan. He rediscovers sacred landmarks and visits the places where Lord Krishna enacted his pastimes. Well, as we discussed from the very beginning of his renunciation, he wanted to go to Vrindavan, but he was redirected or misdirected. He was directed elsewhere, directed to the house of Advaita Acharya. So now finally he's made another attempt to go to Vrindavan, and he was turned back, discouraged by the devotees who advised him. Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Goswami advised him, this is not the time to go to Vrindavan. Whether the reason given in Chaitanya Charitamrita is the whole reason, we may not know, but there could have been other reasons. He was told that you have a crowd of people with you, that's not good. You should not go with a crowd to Vrindavan. Maybe he could have told them, go back, I'm going alone. When he finally went, when Mahaprabhu finally left Puri to go to Vrindavan, he left somewhat secretly. And he also went by a path, a sort of non-standard pathway. He went through the Jarikanda, which presumably would have been a rather dangerous way to go, but he felt no danger at all. In fact, he was quite happy as he was going through the forest to engage the various forest animals in his Sankirtan. He spends some time in Vrindavan, but not very much time. He spends, apparently it's only about 2 months. He's walked for, it must have taken at least a month to walk there. Now he stays in Vrindavan for 2 months, and then he leaves. And the reason given for his leaving so soon is that Balabhadra Bhattacharya, his follower and servant, begs him to leave. The reason being that Mahaprabhu is putting himself in too many dangerous conditions because of his ecstasies. Because he's so overwhelmed by his feelings. After all, who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? He is Krishna himself, but is he in the mood of Krishna? No, he's in the mood of Srimati Radha, Radhika, Radharani. But he's also sometimes in the mood of Krishna for sometimes. And all of this is too much ecstasy. And as a result of his ecstatic emotions, he's forgetting himself. He's forgetting to be careful. All of us in our ordinary consciousness, we're quite body conscious, and we're quite careful with our bodies not to let them become damaged unnecessarily. But Mahaprabhu was, practically speaking, not in his body. Although the Lord is non-different from his body, he was acting as if he is out of his body or out of his mind. When he would go diving into the Yamuna and then stay submerged in the Yamuna and so on. So therefore, Balabhadra pleaded with him to please let us go away from this place, which is dangerous for you. And I cannot protect you from all of these dangers. And Mahaprabhu wants to please his devotees. And therefore, he's obedient to Balabhadra Bhattacharya, and they leave Vrindavan after 2 months. The next section, which is the final section of Madhya Lila, chapters 19 through 25, he designates as organization. It's an interesting rubric to use here, Before returning to Puri, Sri Chaitanya systematically educates Rupa and Sanatan in the science of devotion. He sends them to Vrindavan with the plan to establish and organize the Sankirtan movement. So these meetings are taking place on the way back to Puri. First, he is meeting, who is it? Srila Rupa Goswami in Prayag, which has incidentally, in recent decades or perhaps centuries, it's been called Allahabad, which is, of course, an Islamic name. And now, more recently, with the sort of Hindu nationalism being strong in India at present, it has now been renamed as Prayag Raj, as I understand. So there he meets and teaches Srila Rupa Goswami, it's said, for 10 days. Rupa Goswami, who has come from the opposite direction, proceeds on from there to Vrindavan. And then Mahaprabhu proceeds on in the direction of Puri. And on the way, he stops in Varanasi, or Kashi, or modern term is Benares, also on the bank of the Ganga. There he meets Sanatan Goswami, also coming the opposite direction, and he teaches Sanatan Goswami, it's said, for 2 months. Which is an interesting meditation, if you can imagine being blessed to sit down face to face with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Well, even for a moment, what to speak of a day or 10 days or 2 months. In any case, Sanatan Goswami was blessed in this way. And the teachings are summarized in these 6 chapters, 7 chapters, 19 through 25. Chapter 19, I believe, is teachings to Srila Rupa Goswami, and then 20 through 25 to Sanatan Goswami. Okay, and then Mahaprabhu proceeds on from there back toward Puri, and returning to Puri begins Antyalila. And with Antyalila, we have 20 chapters, and we have, again, 4 sections, according to Sutapa Prabhu. The first section is called Appreciation, and I immediately say the second section is Correction. And you'll notice he has, for both of these, Antyalila chapters 1 through 13, is referring to both appreciation and correction. And I think these are very nice, broad terms to describe these chapters, because that's what's happening. In these chapters, Mahaprabhu is appreciating some devotees, and he is correcting other devotees. We may say he's also appreciating those devotees that he's correcting. But this is kind of the running theme. So chapter 1, Mahaprabhu is appreciating Srila Rupa Goswami, who has come back to Puri now after he's been in Vrindavan for some time. we don't get a lot of exact details about how long Rupa Goswami stays in Vrindavan before he goes to Puri, or other such movements of the different devotees. But in any case, Rupa Goswami came back. Also, Sanatana Goswami comes to Puri. That'll be described in chapter 4. Chapter 2, the chastisement of Junior Haridas. And this is then going under the rubric of correction. I found a very nice, helpful understanding of this particular pastime from my godbrother Vyasaki Prabhu, who explained that he may have also gotten from another source, but it's, I think, a nice point made that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was concerned about how some of his senior associates in Puri were behaving, his senior renunciant associates, the sannyasis. He had several sannyasi associates, and they were senior to him in various ways, and therefore he was not in a position to correct them. It would have been a breach of Vaishnava etiquette. We may want to say, well, you know, he is Krishna, he is the Lord, so of course he can correct them. But no, he is in the mood of a devotee. And he's acting in that mood. And he's feeling that way also. He's feeling in the mood of a devotee. He is not simply acting this way, but he's feeling this way. And so he's thinking, how can I correct them? They are getting a little bit lax in relating, perhaps they're speaking with women in some private situation. This is not appropriate. But how to correct them? So he took this one opportunity in which one of his juniors, Haridas Jr., who was also a renunciant, goes and begs rice from Shiki Mahiti's sister, Madhavi, who is not, she's an elderly lady. There are various things said about this. What was actually the problem? And some say, well, there was a younger daughter there. And in any case, the point is that Mahaprabhu took this as he made Junior Haridas into an object of teaching. And Junior Haridas accepted this. And therefore, Junior Haridas becomes glorious. Because he accepts the chastisement, the correction of Mahaprabhu, and he does the ultimate penance. He goes to the Sangam at Prayag and gives up his life. And Mahaprabhu expresses satisfaction with this. All of this is happening for the purpose of correction, but it's not so much correction of Haridas, it's correction of the others in Puri, the other renunciants. We may say, well, this is really an extreme way to make a correction. Yes, This may be called, as one scholar put it, hard bhakti. Hard bhakti sometimes is manifest. Okay, now we have, did I read? I didn't read. Sri Chaitanya returns to Puri and teaches Vaishnava culture. Through his daily interactions, he shows great appreciation for devotees who embody humility, surrender, renunciation, and unshakable faith. And then correction, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu establishes the spiritual culture by correcting other devotees. He highlights the dangers of fault-finding, philosophical deviation, and inappropriate association. So very nice summary. Okay, then chapters 14 through 19 of Antya-lila is having the general theme of intoxication. And we may be shocked. What? Mahaprabhu taking intoxication? That's right. But what is his intoxication? His is relishing the nectar of the feelings of separation from Lord Krishna. In his final 12 years, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu retreats into seclusion. His feelings of separation from Krishna result in highly elevated transcendental moods, displaying the character of a madly intoxicated lover of God. And of course, much in these chapters, you feel Krishnadas Kaviraj expressing a sense of, maybe desperation is not the word, but a certain frustration at not being able to describe, a feeling of inadequacy to describe the behavior and the feelings, the internal feelings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is chapter 14, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's feelings of separation from Krishna. That's the title of chapter 14. Chapter 15, the transcendental madness of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chapter 16, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tastes nectar from the lips of Lord Sri Krishna. Chapter 17, the bodily transformations of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chapter 18, rescuing the Lord from the sea. And chapter 19, the inconceivable behavior of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So these are all variations on this theme of intoxication. And then finally we come to the final chapter, Antya-lila, instruction. And here Sutapa Prabhu is simply taking the word shiksha from the Shikshamrita of Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya's Shikshamrita. The 8 prayers, the Shikshashtakam. Chaitanya Charitamrita concludes with 8 prayers, Shikshashtakam, which capture the teachings and instructions of Sri Chaitanya. So in one whirlwind tour, we have sallied forth into the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And what my purpose was in giving you this overview was to help you feel that it is possible to enter into the Chaitanya Charitamrita and not get lost. In other words, to give you some courage in case you felt that it might be too much for you to read Chaitanya Charitamrita. So this can help you. Again, you can download this very, very small book, which gives some more slight elaborations from Sutapa Prabhu. And this may help you to chart your way, to navigate your way through Chaitanya Charitamrita. And you may want to do this in preparation for the appearance of Lord Chaitanya coming up on which day?
28th of March.
28th of March. And today's the 13th. So it's a very few days before coming up. Okay, I think that's pretty much what I was going to share. And maybe someone has a comment or a question to anything that we've talked about. You're welcome to speak up. Everyone's being very quiet today. Kaveri, yes. You want to share the screen? We need, okay.
No, okay, I couldn't unmute, sorry. Hare Krishna, Gurudev, and everybody. You mentioned in the previous Sanga that when you saw the photos of places in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that was very exciting for you. And I thought maybe you want to share with us, how was it for you when you first went to those places?
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you. Interesting question. Well, it was exciting. I first went to India in 1978. A few of us, I think. Who was with me? Possibly Bhaktivinoda Swami, dear Krishna, at the time now, Bhakti Sudhir Goswami. Yeah, I think he and I went together. Anyway, we landed in Delhi, then went by train, I think. We went to Vrindavan, to Mathura, and we must have taken a tanga from Mathura to Vrindavan. I don't even know if they still have these horse tangas. I always feel sorry for these little bony horses pulling these carts full of people. Yeah, we came to Vrindavan. By that time, the Krishna Balaram Mandir was completed. Of course, it was opened in 1975. So this is already 3 years later. The guest house was there. I believe we stayed in the guest house, which in those days, that was almost luxury. It was, those are pretty small and simple rooms, but yeah, we stayed there. And when we arrived, I immediately got sick. But not seriously sick. I was kind of down and out for 2 or 3 days. and then I was okay again. And I mean, Vrindavan in those days, it really makes me feel old to say, back when I went to Vrindavan in the first time in 1978. But I mean, it's really true that there wasn't very much around the Krishna Balaram Mandir constructed. I mean, there were some buildings, but it wasn't like now it is. And Raman Reti, this was an open area with lots of beautiful trees and beautiful sand. And peacocks, you'd hear the peacocks in the morning, in the evening, especially. Now, I don't think it's even possible, even if you would, I don't know, maybe from the roof of Krishna Balaram Mandir, you can hear peacocks if you listen. But now there's just so much built up, you can't, the peacocks have all moved much further away. They've been forced out. And you could circumambulate, you could do parikrama of Vrindavan barefoot. I don't dare go barefoot now. I mean, devotees still do it, but now it's all, covered with blacktop. It's all paved. And there's motor traffic. There was no motor traffic on the way along the Yamuna, which was really kind of along the Yamuna. Things have changed so much in Vrindavan. And then after some days in Vrindavan, we went back to Delhi. We flew to Calcutta to this funny airport there. It was called Dum Dum Airport in those days, because that part of Calcutta is called Dum Dum. And how did we get? I don't remember how we got to Mayapur. We must have taken a train because we were really watching our funds. We were really being careful about spending money. So we must have taken a train, Howrah to Navadvip, and then across the Ganga. And then from Hulargat, you take a rickshaw, and then you come to Mayapur. I don't remember if we went that way or the other way, from Shelda station to Krishnanagar. Anyway, it was exciting to see what we had seen something of in photos. At that time, the Mayapur project consisted of 2 buildings, what was called the Long Building, and I think they still call it the Long Building, which is a 2-story building, and it's just one long, straight building with many, many small rooms. It was Brahmachari ashram plus, it was mainly Brahmachari ashram. It was a few other things maybe. Now it's a lot of offices and I don't know what, namhata and all kinds of things. And there was the Lotus Building. And the Lotus Building is where Srila Prabhupada had his room or rooms. There are 2 rooms there, which are still there. They're preserved. There's a Prabhupada Murti. You go up on the 2nd floor. The Lotus Building is really, in many ways, still the best building in Mayapur, because it has these very wide verandas. And this was specifically ordered by Srila Prabhupada. He said, I want this building to have wide verandas. And Prabhupada knew that if there would be wide verandas, then the breeze, even in the hot season, the breeze coming would be very relaxing. And then the ground floor of that building was the temple. That ground floor temple area is now the exhibit hall for the bas relief exhibit of Mahaprabhu's pastimes. And since then, well, if you have not yet been to Mayapur, you can now look on, internet, and you can search. You just search Google Mayapur and then specify images, and you'll get so many images, including aerial. It was exciting. It was, there was, of course, the avidyā-pīd. We had seen photos of the avidyā-pīd, the place where Mahaprabhu, where Vishvambar Nimai appeared, and other places around Mayapur and Navadvip. We could see them for real in 3 dimensions. And of course, now we were experiencing all the sights and yes, the smells and all the people. And somehow it felt very special. It felt that, yes, these are not just ordinary places. These are places where the Lord has had his pastimes and where we have the good fortune to enter into his pastimes being in his holy dhams. And there was a very strong sense of presence of Srila Prabhupada, for me, especially in Mayapur, because Mayapur was, of course, Prabhupada's project. In Vrindavan, of course, also Krishna Balaram Mandir, Prabhupada's house is there. Yeah, very wonderful. How to describe? Okay, well, thank you all so much for joining our little party, and I wish you all the best for this coming week. If you have not yet seen our film, Chittakarani is here. Did you want to say something about the film, Chittakarani?
Okay. Hare Krishna. Please accept my respectful obeisances. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Oh, yes, I can always speak about the movie, but I had one question about Chaitanya Charitamrita, about if we have time.
Well, let's see. What is your question? We might save the answer for the next time.
Okay. My question is, I generally see that Chaitanya Charitamrita is a story of Krishna and the story of sannyasis and deep, deep devotion. And there is no part for the woman. We as spirit souls, we are in the body of a female. So, and we are in Maya. I am in Maya and I am in a female body. Generally in trying to understand devotion, it's very hard for me to approach the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya in this woman's, perception. The perception is, the body gives you this perception. There's not so much to do about that. And so I see that the male devotees can relate it very nicely with the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, and it is always their big desire to become the part of this team, you know, traveling and only sannyasis, no woman, and this is so exciting for the devotees, especially for brahmacharis and also for girls. So my question is, being in this female body, how can I connect with these pastimes of Lord Chaitanya? And I'm thinking, okay, but he's in the mood of Radharani. I can think like this, but he's in the mood of Radharani, but he's acting like a sannyasi. So I really try to find a connection, so that when I am reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, I can relish more in this female body.
Okay. It's a nice question, and I think we will save it for next time, if that's okay. And I suggest that also perhaps others of you, in particular ladies, might want to also think about how you would answer, or maybe you have the same question, but maybe you also have some comments to this question of Chitrakarani. Okay?
Thank you.
So we leave you all with a question, a kind of cliffhanger, as we say. And yeah, everyone stay well, stay safe, be happy, chant and be happy. And read Chaitanya Charitamrita. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Thank you all. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavarinda ki jai. Itai Gaura Premanande. Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
And all brothers and sisters.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jai, thank you, Guru Maharaj.